Good morning, India, and welcome to this edition of Why is France Cozying Up to India? A very interesting question which Mr. Sree Iyer and I are going to discuss. Sree Iyer ji, namaskaram.
Namaskaram, sir. How are you?
First class. On this fine morning, we're going to discuss this question of why is France cozying up to India? We can think of many reasons why India needs France, but the reverse is there. But the first thing before I ask your comments, everything, I want all of us to hear what President Macron has to say about India, and then I'll invite your questions, or rather, I'll invite your views on this. Let's go.
Traveling from Delhi to welcome myself and my delegation here.
That is
Traveling from Delhi to welcome myself and my delegation here in Mumbai.
There's some issue with this. Yeah.
Our discussion today, your presence here, means a lot and speaks to the long-standing friendship between our two countries and our personal friendship. Thank you very much for that. Mumbai, the city of dreams, a city in perpetual motion, reaching toward the future. I cannot think a better place to launch what we are inaugurating today, the India-France Year of Innovation. But before I talk about the future, let me start with a fact about the present, not to be underestimated. The CEO of Alphabet is Indian. The CEO of Microsoft is Indian. The CEO of IBM is Indian. The CEO of Adobe is Indian. The CEO of Palo Alto Networks is Indian. The CEO of Novartis is Indian. And the CEO of Chanel, one of the most iconic houses in France, is Lina Neher from Kolhapur, right here in this state. So, and if I would add to that, 3 months ago, Mathieu Blazy, Chanel's new creative director, chose a young woman from Hyderabad, Bhavita Mandava, to open his show in New York. And she was the first Indian model ever to open a Chanel runway. She was discovered on the subway platform, and she walked into a subway station in front of the world. So India does not just participate to global innovation. India leads it, from Silicon Valley to the Champs-Élysées, and from technology to culture. And that, dear Narendra, dear Prime Minister, is what this year of innovation celebrates. Not a promise, but a reality. Innovation is a driver.
So this is what President Macron had to say a few days back. And it's not only, it doesn't end there. He also said this, he also said this. 10 years ago, a street vendor in Mumbai could not open a bank account. Today, the same vendor accepts payments on the phone instantly. A lot, right? And Chris Blackburn says the foundations have been carefully laid. India's next steps will elevate the region and the globe. So there's a lot of gloss coming in from everywhere, especially from France. What do you make of it, sir?
Thank you so much, General Shankar. See, coming from some of the former colonial countries like France and Great Britain, this is high praise indeed. They were sitting on this ivory tower where we were the colonizers. We knew what's good for you, white man's burden, and all that stuff. And now suddenly there's a realization that the world is getting away from them and that their options are getting more and more limited. And so they have to do some adjustment, attitude adjustment, plus the way they look at bigger countries such as India. I'm talking about economically as well as population wise. And by the way, this may sound like a discordant note. I don't think the country of India had anything to do with the success of all these individuals as CEOs, other than the fact that they gave them the right foundation. beyond that, they all did it on their own. So yeah, it's good to see that they have risen to the top of their professions, but that's mostly by dint of hard work on their side, and also the realization that India was very solidly socialist at the time. We were all going through education, so there are some things, nuances, but that's okay. We'll take it even then. The biggest most important thing, Shankar, is how is France going to be different in terms of transferring its technology to India? Because my gut feeling is that France would do the same thing that other powers do, wherein they give you something but not everything. Because they may be afraid that, I'm going to ask you directly because you are in the thick of things here. Do you think that the secret sauce is going to be shared by France to India? I don't think even I don't think even Russia did that.
Out of question. Let me be very frank with you. No one will give it to you.
Yes.
Okay. That's one part of the story. The second part of the story is we don't know how to take it. It's surprising, but that's a fact. We've had cases where we got transfer of technology and we've not used it. Classic case, Bofors. Mind you, Bofors, Sweden, gave you 100% transfer of technology and we muffed it. When did Bofors come? 84. Now, 40 years later, we are struggling. We're still struggling to get use that TOT, convert it, put it into the Dhanush, and put it on ground fully. It's coming, right? And we paid for it at that time, and we couldn't convert it. So there are two aspects to this story. One is how much will they give, the secret sauce, and second is can we convert it. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, even if they give you the TOT, you don't know what to do with it. Honestly. At this point of time, maybe it will take you another 10 years. It will not happen. So this has to be a sustained effort to get there. And the third part of the story is design. You see, the thing comes here. Are you in a position to design these things? Now, let me give you an example. Maruti Suzuki. Maruti Suzuki came to India in 1984. 83, 84, I remember. And ever since then, it came as a complete knockdown kit to semi-knockdown kit to parts here and everything. Today, Suzuki India is a company of its own. You have biggest car manufacturers, everything. You still don't design it, right? You just still don't make an engine. I mean, you might be surprised. Is there an Indian engine?
No.
The problem of engines is not only for aircraft. We still don't have an auto engine of our own. Forget about aircraft. I want to be proved wrong. All our engines are licensed manufacturing. We make it beautifully. Have we designed our own engine? So we have to understand as to what are the limits of this equation with France. All right. So this is my view. I hope I've answered your question. I'll hand it back to you.
Sir, speaking of automobile engines, Morris Minor is a brand that was quite popular a few years ago. I don't know. I don't see many now. Become an antique version. But that engine, that car was air-cooled, didn't need water. And it was built, I think, in Second World War. Volkswagen Bug was a name in United States. I don't know what it was in Germany. But that was supposed to be simplicity and elegance personified. And you could theoretically, break it down into small pieces and wherever you are, hand carry it to wherever you want it to, and then put it back together and it would just run. So I think engine technology is not that complicated. Somewhere there is inertia to want to do that. Maybe they feel like getting it out from outside is cheaper than doing the required R&D to make it to work here. I thought Kirloskar had a lot of engines, General Shankar. They never did an auto engine?
didn't.
Oh,
There's a fact.
speaking of Kirloskar, there's an interesting story. Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, he was also a farmer. He inherited a lot of land, and he was trying to use the Kirloskar engine, and he found a fault in the design. You know what he did? He actually ripped open the whole thing. He's an arts graduate. He's not a science engineering guy. He ripped open the whole thing, figured out what the design flaw was. He fixed it himself on his engine. Then he wrote to Kirloskar saying that this is the flaw in your design, and they accepted it. So, I mean, we've had, amazing people who have done things like this. So, why do you think we are not doing engine? Engine is a very fundamental thing in an automobile or an aircraft, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you. You look like he says, Google says Ashok Leyland manufactures their own engine. Sure, I've seen assembly lines. I've seen assembly lines in Tata. I've seen manufacturing lines, production lines, everything of engines. Every inch of an engine is manufactured here. Is it designed here? Is there value addition to that design? That's the point. So we're not there. And the same thing, because we don't do things originally. The problem of whatever we do is not original thinking. The day we can do original thinking, things will change. Right? So that's the thing. So that answers your question of transfer of technology, AO, all that. But let's go over the larger issue of what is this global strategic partnership all about, and after all, this is now termed as the special global partnership, right? And I think we need to understand this so that we get a hang of, and then we'll see why the French are posing up to us. Okay. When you look at the larger thing, what is the strategic alignment and all that? Let me explain. I want your comments on this also. Both nations value independence. That's one thing about France. France has never been part of any alignment on a permanent nature. Even NATO in and out. It's part of the West and yet not part of the West. Right? India follows non-alignment, strategic autonomy and all that. Right? And to a large extent, the French don't subscribe to the US-led world order, incidentally. Right? There's some alignment there, thinking. Then, of course, the Indo-Pacific partnership. France has been a great colonizer in this area. It's got a lot of interest. After all, the French Indo-China or Vietnam, Cambodia, all that, right? All part of the French colonies, everything. And they have huge interest in the Indo-Pacific even now. Let me see if I can get a map. Yeah, this is a map which shows the French colonies in the Indo-Pacific, Reunion, Mayotte, the southern and Atlantic lands, and here New Caledonia. All these are French territory, and they are worried of the fact that look, tomorrow if the rules-based order of the Indo-Pacific order isn't there, then they lose all this, and they're worried about China. Frankly speaking, they're worried about China, right? And especially 2 years back, they came out with their own Indo-Pacific strategy, 2-3 years back. Of course, now things have receded, but it's there. And it's only India, which can help them out. After all, they're not a resident country here. They're so far away. They're 1-2 oceans away. I mean, to get to the Indian Ocean, they have to either come through the Mediterranean or the Atlantic, right? And these islands of Reunion and Mayotte are important along the Madagascar Strait. They still control the traffic routes, right? And then, of course, there are other issues also. They've supported us on, during our nuclear tests, which we have done. They support us for the UN Security Council thing and all that. Plus, now we are, for us, we have major dependency on France for our defense equipment. And over the recent past, it has grown. And it has been there for a long time. And for them, it's a great export destination. Look at this. You're looking at the Rafale. We're going to order that. We're looking at 26 Rafale marine aircraft, which we've already put in thing. You're looking at the submarine corporation with Scorpions. You're looking at H-125 helicopter production in India, which is a civil aircraft. And of course, missile manufacturing. Bell has inked a MOU with France for Hammer missiles. So you have this dependency and everything. And that these are their interests and our interests. It's mutual. Uh, with this, it looks pretty okay with all this. So, yeah, I want your comments and views on all what I've put across to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, France has always tried to maintain its individuality. In fact, one of the main drivers of the dollar going off of the gold standard was French insistence on getting back their exact gold bars that they had placed in the custody of United States during the World War or second or just before that. See, much of the gold flowed from Europe to United States, and then the war ended, and then the French insisted that they get back the exact same gold bar that they had placed. So they used to have this, long list, exact marking, and so on and so forth. It used to drive the Americans up the wall because after all, gold is gold. Why are you insisting on having your own? So there was a suspicion that perhaps the gold was tampered. Be that as it may, de Gaulle used to, bring naval warfleet ships to United States and then transport this back to France. And then one time, I believe, the British said the same thing. Instead of paying us in dollars, can you pay us in gold? And then that's what got the goat of Nixon. And he said, okay, now this is not sustainable anymore. So the French started that. In fact, French have had always a unique opinion about a lot of things. They wouldn't I think they allowed Germany into NATO, but not Britain. I have to go back and double check that. One of those two countries, de Gaulle would not allow. Until he died, that country could not get into NATO. And finally it did. So France always has its own opinion about things, and I'm glad that that's coming out. Also, French also had a colony. That is, I think, Diu, Daman, and Pondicherry.
Yeah.
All these were Pondicherry.
Mahe, Yanam.
Mahe, yes. Yanam.
Yeah.
So all these things they have had exposure to Indian technology. In fact, the French did the same thing that the British did. They took Indian bureaucrats to go and run countries like Vietnam. You don't see it until you get immigrants from Vietnam speaking good Hindi or good Telugu or good Indian languages. I said, how did this happen? And they say, oh, my father came as part of the French to come and work in Vietnam. And I'm third generation, fourth generation, and so on and so forth. So you get all these mixes. So France was just like Britain, a colonizer, where they did take the talent of Indian bureaucracy to go run their colonies. And so that way, French. In fact, if you worked in Pondicherry, sir, when the French were running it, if you worked in Pondicherry, you automatically got citizenship, and many opted to take that. When the French left Pondicherry, the government people also, many of the people went back to Paris and settled there. You have a big thriving Tamil population in Paris.
I agree with you.
France.
Yeah, I agree with
so
you.
There is a certain. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
In fact, when I went to France, I went to France as a colonel first time, and I was commanding a unit. And so I went to a artillery unit in France, during their firing and all that. And there they produced a Tamil-speaking Pondicherry guy. Okay.
Yeah.
And right, so they're there. I mean, to that extent, let me put you as colonizers. Maybe France was a better deal than UK. Sorry, in my own opinion. This is my opinion, right? We don't know how things would have played out, and the French were pretty active in those days. After all. One should remember, the wars, the colonial wars between Dupleix and Clive of those days. Dupleix was in Pondicherry and Clive was in.
He was a brilliant general.
So, both these people were there, and after all, I'm sitting here, and yesterday I went to Fort St. George, and then I saw a Clive building there. Can you imagine? There's a Clive building in Madras. In Fort St. George, just next to where our secretariat is, and you go to Pondicherry, you see Dupleix statue, and these guys were fighting. The colonial wars were being fought here. But overall, if you see the way the French integrated with India was far better. For my own view, well, the French lost to UK, but probably would have been a better off nation if the French were there.
Yeah.
But then that's conjecture and that's past. That's history, right?
See,
But yeah,
according to me, and this, I mean, feel free to disagree with me, viewers. According to me, see, religion forms the backbone of many of these countries. French was primarily Catholic, and Britain was more Protestant, and Catholics are more family virtues, family based. See Italy, right? That's a bigger example of this. So that also might have had a hand in it, because French saw the Indian family system was fairly well established, well entrenched, and so on and so forth. So that could be another reason. But overall, you are right. French and Indian interests are much more congruent, and that perhaps makes for a good partnership. It my regret that it took so long for this to happen. It could have happened sooner. Especially, see, the thing I'm hearing, you can correct me on just one thing, sir. You can correct me if I'm wrong. India is stuck with the GE 404 engines because the body of the plane where it was supposed to go in can only take that engine. And if it has to be substituted with the Safran, the whole thing has to change, or something to that effect is what I heard.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, though.
Redesign. You had to redesign. Right?
Redesign,
You redesign. And when you deal with the French, there's some earthiness which comes out. This is my own view. After having dealt with them, and they're more amenable to many things. Right? Yet, of course, at the end of the day, they'll only give you black box technology. Let's be very clear. But let me also put it across. We've done this deal. We're going to do this deal of the Rafale. We already got 6 Scorpion submarines from them. Plus, we're going to go for more. Plus, of course, the marine Rafale. I mean, a lot of things are happening. I don't
Scorpion.
have Scorpion, and many things. H125 helicopters, which has entered the scene now. But we have to understand the French. What are the drivers of France to come to India? Let me put that across. You see, like anywhere else in Europe, France faces the same problem. They have a problem of their economy not going anywhere. They have a problem of their demography, which is not going. And then France has, like you said, a unique problem. France, if you see, let's take France-US relations. You see the way Trump has been mocking Emmanuel Macron. Many times he says, "Oh, Emmanuel, I think you're offline." Oh, Emmanuel, this is not way to do things. He's been mocking and insulting France, US. Okay? France, on its part, has gone to Russia to solve the Ukraine-Russia problem, but not made any headway. France has gone to China, and let me put it, all three, Russia, China, and USA, have virtually kicked France out. Okay? And France has invested on all three. This is historic. Why is France cozying up to China? Or for that matter, why is Europe cozying up to China? Why did they do? Because they invested into China. At some point of time, the Western powers thought that China is a better destination than India. And so France also went to China. And like anyone else, France is caught in China. Okay. So France needs an out. France needs somewhere else to go besides USA, Russia, and China. In any case, on the continent, like you said, nothing French is accepted in Britain. And nothing French is accepted in Germany either. After all, if you look at it, the continental wars, France, Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the French Empire and the British Empire were always at odds with each other in some form or other. So France needs a new destination. And that new destination is India. It finds. And France is probably more willing to come forth with India. I'm not looking at it from a negative point of view. I'm looking at it from a balanced perspective. Right? So they're coming to India. On the other hand, we are having problems. China, dealing within China is out. Russia is fine, but there are limits to Russia where we can go. You can't trade with Russia beyond a point. Okay, because the economy is small, right? And the fact that USA has its own, trading with USA has its own issues, especially defense and things like that. So there you find, I think France is a good end, or rather destination to go to where we can get a lot of things. Another thing with France is they don't ask you questions where you're going to use your equipment. No, anything which you want to get from USA, there's an end user requirement. You have to justify to them where you want to use it. In the sense that, look, in fact, this is one of the things I had to fight with the US in some of our deals. I said, look, I'm going to use it where I want. If you give it to me on those lines, I'll take it. Otherwise, get lost. Okay, and it happened. It happened that way finally, but it was a lot of effort. France doesn't ask you questions, right? France will just give it to you. You use it where you want. But while that is an advantage for us, but there's a disadvantage also. The flip, France sells everything to Pakistan. If Pakistan is tomorrow prepared to pay, they'll sell it to Pakistan also. Understand this. And that is why they went and sold everything what they wanted to China also. See, the French Mirages are there with France. Pakistan. And they are used for lobbing atomic, warheads against us. Old, but they're there. So you have to understand this duality in the French outlook. The good thing for us is today, Pakistan can't afford France. And I think that we've gone past that Rubicon where France will probably stop looking at Pakistan. But don't be surprised if France goes and supplies something to Pakistan tomorrow. Right? So, if I'm dealing with France, one of the things I would like to look at is how to limit this whole story. Right? And how to ensure that Pakistan doesn't get hold of the same items which I'm getting hold of. So we probably have to put some end user agreements on France or end destinations of France. So these are certain things which, when you deal with France, have to come out this thing. There are other issues which I thought I'll put across. The French insist on dealing in French language. So they might say we'll have exchange of people, all that, but it doesn't help us. We can't send our students there. First, they have to learn French, and then they have to get onto the topic. So there's a cultural barrier between France and India, which is up. And ours is English. You go to France and speak in English first. No one will look at you. You speak in Hindi and say, look, I don't know French, and I want to speak in Hindi to you. They will say, do you know English? They'll say Anglais, and then you say yes, Anglais. Then they'll speak to you in English. So that French guy might not know English. He'll not speak to you unless you speak to him in some other language. And then so these issues are there. And the third point, yeah, please.
Sir, I learned one line in French, and I used it very, very well, I thought, in France when I was there. What I would do was, I would straight out ask, "Vous parlez anglais?" Which means, do you speak English? Yeah. And that breaks the barriers.
Yeah, sir. But first you have to speak in Hindi or Tamil. Use any language. They don't understand it. Then you say, "Parlez-vous anglais?" Then that fellow will say, he might say, "Parlez-vous anglais?" Okay, and then you might get there. So this issue is something which we need to be cognizant about. Okay, we should be very cognizant about this aspect. The second thing which I see is their relationship with China. They have a relationship with you. They have a relationship with China also. So they don't support your Chinese ventures or adventures or whatever you call it, or your stance against China. So if you're thinking of getting any support a political support from France against China, forget it. I want your views on this, if you have a view.
See, every country is for themselves, General Shankar, and the problem that France had was that socialistic streak that has lasted them for a long time, and now they are unable to break out of it. I'll give you an example. I used to work for a company which is one of the biggest contractors of Airbus industry. And the reason they became one of the biggest contractors of Airbus industry was that French laws are so strict on employees that people prefer to not have any full-time employees and rather use consultants, because hiring and firing is easier in that mode. So France had this is a fundamental structural problem that has kind of held back France for a while. Whatever technologies we are talking about, submarine or fighter jets and all these things, these probably are like 10 years after Second World War, where they had done the hard yards during that time. Tell me something that they have done new. AI engines or software modules. Even Germany has SAP. It's not the easiest software to use, I'll tell you off the bat. But they have something to hang their hat on, SAP. French, I'm still looking for something. I mean, Chanel is all fine, but I mean, that it's different genre.
Chanel,
I'm talking about something that's foundational.
No. Chanel, wine, shine, and all is, I think, for us.
Yves Saint Laurent, yeah.
All those. What we need is technology.
Yes.
What we are looking at is technology. And to grant it to them, they have technology. I mean, they're the only guys who they've mastered the GIS technology. Okay, Safran, right? And so your navigation systems. In fact, most navigation systems in India are French-based, especially for our strategic systems. Okay, that's something which we have to get out of. That's one of the problems. Let me put this up so that you understand. These are the issues which we have with France today, which we need to get over. You have strategic and geopolitical divergences. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, France is a core member of NATO and it has an anti-Russian stance. If the Ukraine war continues, will they support us or what? I don't know. I mean, that's still ambiguous. Though every day they come and all that. Then the China ties, which I mentioned to you earlier, they're not prepared to give it up. They'll not give it up because you're an elevated global partnership and all. Then the issue of black box technology, which you put out with limited thing. Another danger which I see when you accept such big deals from France, indigenization will get killed. See, one of the problems with our own indigenization effort is that because we said, okay, the easy way out is to get import, we don't, generate enough indigenization. And like you rightly said in the thing, are we going to miss out on complete aircraft technology, civil as well as military? After all, it's just not military to military, Rafale, Shafales and all. We have some of the biggest orders on Airbus, Tata Airbus, C295. Plus, I think Air India has gone to Airbus. Either Air India or Indigo, one of them has gone to Airbus in a big way. Right? Then you have a trade imbalance. You are import dependent on France. What are you exporting to France? Almost zero. And whenever they give you any nuclear technology, it comes with a liability. And now you're looking at small modular reactors and advanced modular reactors from France. How far will that go? And you need it. Okay. Now, digital and AI regulations also, there are problems. There are problems on data sovereignty and all that. Then you have to understand one major issue, which I thought, France, for all its advancement, everything has some domestic problems. It has domestic internal problems. We have seen riots breaking out in Paris. There are social problems in France, and there are issues of their economy also. It's not a hunky dory. To some extent, I think we are bailing out the French economy by going in for this huge defense purposes. So there are problems with this equation with France. It's not all hunky dory. Uh, I thought I'd put across all these points of view, and I want your views on this.
Thank you, sir. French, as well as many West European nations, pension funds are invested in China. And according to my information, these are kind of locked. You can't take that money out. In fact, even American companies can't take their money out. Let's say Chevron goes into China and ekes out a profit of $500 million. China is not allowing them to take it out. So there are capital controls in place. And this has been going on for a while. So what ends up happening is that if you can't take money out, you see, it's possible that a company like Chevron may have a shortfall somewhere else. So they want to shore up the money that they earned in one country. If you deny them that permission, then they don't feel that good about it. I have a feeling that Western Europe and including UK have realized that China is an unreliable partner now. They promise everything, but finally nothing is coming out in terms of what you had invested. So you can see that there is a bank account for you in a Chinese bank, and you can see that the interest is accruing and accruing and accruing and accruing, but you can't touch it.
Yeah.
So these are all some of the. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I agree with you completely. No, I agree with you completely. I agree with you completely on this issue. The Western, complete Europe and US are now understanding that what is caught in China is caught. It might be a total write-off one fine day, and they'll continue.
Yeah.
Right, till they waste out, and then they're going to come and their alternate haven is India, right? And we'll talk of it this thing. So, look, I thought we've covered most of the issues with France, why France is closing up, while it suits us today to go to France and get all those items. Why is France doing all this? Right? So, is there this thing? Then there's certain imbalance in this relationship which is going to come up. How do you see this going forward? Let me ask you this.
General Shankar, this is going back to what we did, I think, discussed 10 days ago or something. How prepared is India to step up to the plate when EU as well as the US trade agreements come on board, where investment starts coming into India? See, the problem that West Europe has today, they thought that they'll get these immigrants and then they'll train them to do some of the more, routine tasks. And then they realize that they are not going to be able to do that with them. So now those tasks still have to be done. And they don't have the manpower. Every country has aged. So what do? You need to have somebody who can take this technology. That person has to be well versed in technology to take it and run. Now, that's where India comes in, because India still has an open way of repatriating profit. I have said this 2, 3, 4 years ago, General Shankar, that when a foreign investment is coming into India, don't limit them from taking their profits out of India. They made the profit, let them pay the taxes. You are going to give a 15% tax holiday, 15% now tax base, and let them take the remaining money out. Don't force them to reinvest it in India. That's because that's what China has done. You want to be different from the others if you want to attract investment. And look at how Dubai is such a big magnet for all these things. What is different? The rules and regulations are a lot simpler in Dubai. Of course, one can make the argument, don't compare an island with a nation. Yes, I'm not. So yes, but that's why I'm saying some things where you are able to distinguish money coming in from abroad. If they want to repatriate their profits after paying taxes, let them do it. Because this is a confidence problem. I hope the mandarins in finance ministry understand this. You need to do something that the others have not done. That's how you get and keep the countries with you.
The large point you're making is that, look, we have to change. Our idea has to change. It's not only your idea about finances, it's your idea about technology, your idea about export, your idea about international relations. We have to change. Right? So I think In the okay, here there's one question which I saw, which let me see. Um, yeah, right. India exports more to France since 2021 till 2025. Kindly check data. Look, we are very clear about it. There is no way we'll be exporting what we are importing from France in terms of defense testing. It's too huge that we don't have anything to export to France at this point of time. So you have to understand. Right. One other point I want your views. You see, your deal with France balances out USA, balances out Russia, balances out China, balances out any other part of the world to give you some kind of strategic autonomy on your own. It spreads the risk. I want your views on that.
So you should see some of the YouTube videos on how military analysts are looking at Ops Sindoor and identifying India's strengths and weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses that was identified with India was its lack of fighter jets. And that's what is being filled by the purchase of Rafale jets, plus a long-term commitment to get whether it is Su-57 or Rafale or even engines from Safran. See, everything has its own, once you commit, you got to see it through. And if there is any change in government or something like that, that could be a problem. So you have to get sovereign guarantees, is what I'm trying to say. So these things, if India can fill up some of their holes, for example, in Navy, India is playing catch up. Let's be honest. Compared to China, we are playing catch up. And how quickly can we bridge the gap while indigenizing on our own? And that's what I've explained in Operation Bhasmasur. What happens in submarine technology? What are the faults? See, I may be making a blanket statement, but I'll put it out. I'm sitting in front of an ex-general, so he'll correct me if I'm totally wrong. Much of Chinese arms technology is essentially taking what they got from Russia and putting some few things here and there, not fully understanding it. Maybe they did get some from other countries also, but China hasn't really done anything from ground up for their warfare armament stuff. So you have an opportunity where if you can do your own thing, then what happens is that becomes unique. For example, a quiet submarine. This is something that is very difficult to achieve. People can pick up your sonar signature. Oh, it is this particular engine. They even will tell you this is the serial number. How come this guy is sitting here? Just by detecting your sonar. And that's where we are. And India needs to. I'm sure there are other holes also. It's not just this. For example, India doesn't have its own anti-aircraft systems. It is buying S-400 from Russia. It is working on it. I think it is called Kusha or something like that. Love Kusha, I think, something like that. There's a technology that's being developed by India on its own, ground up.
Kusha.
So, So India needs to plan these things well, and in some ways the Agniveer program is going to help, because you're going to have newer people coming into the system, perhaps with a slightly more advanced input conditions. This is again the other side, what I'm looking at. You may be looking at half empty glass, but I'm looking at the half full glass, where the thought process is not set. It's moving a little bit. That also helps the whole ecosystem. And India can see one basic thing India needs to understand. You do very well in crisis mode, but the moment you feel the crisis has passed, you go back to your old ways. That's not on anymore. You have to be able to continue doing it, maybe at a little bit less pace, but you have to keep innovating. That's the way to go. And if you start doing that, nobody can stop India. That's my 2 cents. And there are some comments about my comments on CEOs in USA. It's okay. We can talk about it separately. I'll be happy to take some cases and tell you what happened in each one of their careers. It's not easy. Sir, go ahead, sir.
No, I go with you, but let me put it. Your thing about Agniveers coming in and they'll do something which will change that. I don't think so. I mean, our system is not designed that way. These Agnivis will do nothing. Okay, I mean, I'm being very practical about it. Agniveer system will do something else, but not in technology. It will not improve our defense technology or self-dependency and things like that. But let me put it, India is a very funny country. We have certain areas we are very good. For example, missile technology, we know everything. Nuclear technology, we know most of the thing, right? We're heading into thorium technology, we know most of the things, right? We've mastered artillery, we mastered air defense, right? We know how to build ships. Those technologies we know, but unfortunately, our system has not allowed us to go beyond that. And what we don't have, we still lack. For example, space technology. Yeah, we've gone miles ahead, putting satellites miles ahead. But certain technologies, we are off. Airspace technologies, aerospace technologies, we are not there. We're not there. Let me tell you. Propulsion, we are there. But talk of jet propulsion, we are not there. Engines, we are not there. Right? Certain electronics, we're just not there. Okay. This is something which we need to overcome. And this has to be overcome by a whole of government approach. And I don't see that happening in a hurry. I don't see that happening in a hurry because there has to be a people centric approach to this. And what's happening in this business of AI and information technology, this field of computers, AI, quantum, AI, will kill that part. Let me be very honest. Yeah, today there's an AI summit. Everyone wants to come to India. Everyone wants to come to India for a different reason. It's not to improve AI technology. It's not going to do that. That will discuss separately one of these days. Maybe on 23rd or 24th we'll discuss this. This AI summit is not going to do much great to us. It's going to do a lot of good, but it's not going to be making you innovative on your own. Okay, so we have to have a different approach. And that approach has to be people driven. Unless we get into core technologies, core sciences, we will not get there. But then this is what we are, and we have to make do with what we can. And what can we make do today? A better relationship with France, because it gives you a lot of hedges against many things else, right? It still meets your requirements. You pay for it, and if you can afford to pay for it, fine. And you will continue to pay for all this. And mind you, when you pay for all this, it's going to be 10 times more. I mean, I'll give you an equivalent. I was just reading the other day. There's a Japanese article which came out. It says, look for extended range projectiles, 155 mm ramjet projectiles. The cost is as much as $50,000 each. Okay, the ramjet which IIT Madras will give to the Indian Army tomorrow, we will give, will be maximum 3 lakhs. How much does 3 lakhs turn out in dollars?
4,000
max. Where is 4,000? Where is 50,000? This is the differential in technology. Do we have the sense as a nation that this is what we can save? That's my problem. You make your own technology, it's very cheap. You don't make your own technology, it's going to be very costly. And what's silly in our country is the guy who's going to give you run after France and USA and all these fellows, right? To buy this, or not even buy, to use this costly technology. You don't fund your own guys who can produce that technology. That is the biggest problem India faces. And I can say this with complete authority. Because I'm part of that lower end, trying to produce technology. And I'm not getting funding from India. Others outside are prepared to fund me, not in India. So I'll leave it at that. Would you like to sum up what we spoke, and then we'll take a few questions, stroke comments.
Thank you so much, sir. Look, India needs to do a lot of things in relatively quick amount of time. And there is a shock being administered. This is a good problem to have. You're going to get a lot of opportunities where 4 or 5 companies will be trying to hire you. But what happens is each one of those things will require you to get trained in something, and you can get trained on the job. There's nothing wrong in that, but you have to put the extra effort for that. These kinds of things are what are going to happen in India, and be ready for it. Have a very open mindset. And AI, yes, make AI your junior. Like, for example, if you have to make a presentation, right, give the big picture to the AI engine and let it make the presentation, and then go and look at it and see how you can put your language, your style into it. Then you look like a hero. You would only be spending 1/10 the time. I'm just giving you one example, viewers.
No. I go with you. I go with you completely. So I think we don't have really great questions.
No, I don't think so. See, there's one thing that a lot of people are commenting on. Viewers, fundamental design is different from making 100% a product in India. That means that you've got a technology and you have assembled it and you're doing it on your design is different from manufacturing something 100%.
Yeah.
Your design requires a different mindset. You are going to stumble, you're going to fall, you're going to fail, and you have to pick yourself up and come back and do it again. So,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah, I've done it. You can cap it up and then we'll close the show.
Yes. Opportunity has come knocking on the doors of India. And for a country as proud as France, for them to seek help, it's not easy. Believe me, they have explored every possible avenue, and they feel like this is the only way forward. And let's not let them down. Meaning, like, under promise and over deliver. Learn this line: under promise and over deliver, and this will put you in good stead in life. It doesn't matter what. Promise your significant other that you'll be able to give a silver chain and surprise her with a gold chain. That's what I meant by under promise and over deliver. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, folks. Thanks a lot to everyone from P Gurus and Ganashot who have attended today's morning's Good Morning India show. We'll request you both to subscribe to Ganashot and P Gurus, and also become members of our channel and like this video also. Today we've had an overview of what both sides of the coin of India and France. It's just not one way. How do you make it two ways? The more important thing, and how do you view a thing, from 360 degrees view is what we wanted to put across to you. With this, have a great day and rejoin us back in the evening. Till then, Jai Hind to all of you and Namaskaram.
Namaskar.